The equation between Debbie Reynolds, Eddie Fisher, and Elizabeth Taylor was something right out of a movie. A happily married couple with 2 beautiful kids is getting along splendidly until the husband leaves the wife for none other than her best friend. Yep, that's exactly how it was, or maybe it was even worse if you consider just how close the 2 friends were. On the surface, it seems as though American singer and actor Eddie Fisher was the crucial point of this love triangle, but as the whole story unfolds, you realize the friendship between Debbie Reynolds and Elizabeth Taylor is the most integral part. In this case, friendship and not love conquered all. Taylor and Reynolds were longtime friends. Reynolds met Taylor when she was 17, and even though the 2 actors were at different places in their career, Taylor already a star while Reynolds was a beginner, they struck up a friendship that would last a lifetime. In 1955, Reynolds and Fisher tied the knot, and Taylor and her then-boyfriend Mike Todd were dear friends to the couple. It was all very dreamy as the media soaked up the deets of the 4 of them living the good life, and no one could have imagined what would come next. After a series of unforeseen events, Fisher dumped Reynolds for Taylor, and it was all downhill for the singer thereafter, personally and professionally. In the early 50s, Fisher was a teen idol thanks to his smashing looks and melodious voice, and Reynolds was a movie star fresh from the success of 2 Weeks with Love and Singin' in the Rain. Although Fisher isn't as famous today as some of the other musical legends of the time, he delivered some smashing hits. 17 of his songs had made it to the top 10, including Thinking of You, Lady of Spain, and Wish You Were Here. The romance between the 2 A-list celebrities began when Fisher spotted Reynolds performing for troops during the Korean War and fell head over heels for her. In 1955, the happy couple got married, and the next year they welcomed their daughter Carrie, who would go on to play the iconic role of Princess Leia in Star Wars. During this time, Reynolds was good friends with Taylor, whom she knew back from when she was 17. The 2 went to school together at MGM's back lot. Back then, Taylor was already a star, while Reynolds was just a beginner, yet they got along famously. Reynolds once told People magazine she was in awe of going to school with Taylor. The initial years of marriage were fairly rosy for the couple. Both Fisher and Reynolds were good friends with Taylor and her then-boyfriend Mike Todd. The 4 of them were like a postcard version of the perfect Hollywood life, and they were soaking up media attention like never before. They were so close that when Taylor and Todd tied the knot in 1957, Fisher was the best man and Reynolds was the matron of honor. Taylor and Todd's married life was filled with joy. Todd seemed to love the media attention, the scale of which was relatively new for him. In June 1957, he threw a grand birthday party at Madison Square Garden that had a whopping 18,000 guests and was even broadcast live. Talk about living larger than life. The 2 couples remained thick as thieves, so much so that Fisher and Reynolds named their son Todd after their friend. Mike Todd died in a plane crash in New Mexico shortly after in March of 1958, which was when everything started going downhill. Naturally, Taylor was overcome with grief, and Fisher flew to be by her side to comfort her. In Unsinkable, a memoir, Reynolds said he agreed to take care of baby Todd and Taylor's 2 children at her home. The situation does seem odd, since who would be all right with their husband living with another woman? Only a month later, the equation changed. Fisher separated from Reynolds to be with Taylor. The change didn't blindside Reynolds, as she claims her marriage was already in trouble much before he went to stay with Taylor. She realized something was up between Fisher and Taylor only a fortnight after Todd's death. Taylor had to go to New York for work, and Fisher was not supposed to be with her. It was then that Reynolds tried calling Fisher, but she couldn't get through. When she phoned Taylor, Fisher answered the phone, and she could hear Taylor in the background. One would imagine Fisher would regret the way he ended things with Reynolds and spare her further heartache after he humiliated her by dumping her for her best friend, but that was not the case. Years later, Fisher penned harsh words about Reynolds in not 1 but 2 autobiographies. Reynolds claimed she hadn't read either, since she didn't want to dislike him, considering they had 2 kids together. Keep watching to find out what he said and how Reynolds reacted to the whole episode. And before we move on, please take a moment to hit the like button if you're enjoying this video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos. 2 of Hollywood's most loved couples had broken, and now they were fodder for the tabloids. Fans were angry Taylor had come between the happy Fisher-Reynolds duo, and she was labeled a homewrecker. It was even worse for Fisher, who bore the brunt of the scandal that was quickly spiraling out of control. The negative publicity took a toll on his career, as fans declared him a cheater and an opportunist. The only safe one was Reynolds, who had public sympathy as the unsuspecting wife who would now have to raise her kids alone. The scandal made Reynolds and Taylor quite the topic, and they were now demanding fatter paychecks, but it had a very different effect on Fisher's career. NBC canceled his TV series in 1959 because of the negative publicity, and several other contracts were canceled for morality clauses. Suddenly, Fisher went from being a star to touring nightclubs. The scandal single-handedly destroyed his career. What's interesting is Reynolds never took advantage of the situation. For the most part, she remained quiet even as Taylor and Fisher spoke. She divorced Fisher a year after they separated, and soon Fisher married Taylor. In an interview with People magazine in 1983, Reynolds said she never harbored ill feelings towards Taylor, because no man would leave one woman for another unless he wanted to go. She even went on to add she believed Fisher was just an interim love interest in Taylor's mourning, and she never truly loved him. Taylor and Fisher divorced in 1964 after her affair with co-star Richard Burton on Cleopatra. At this time, Reynolds was married to Harry Carl, a millionaire businessman. Taylor and Reynolds were still cold to one another, even though Fisher was no longer in the picture, which was understandable since Taylor had grossly betrayed Reynolds. It seemed like the two were not going to reconcile, which may have been the case had they not met up on the transatlantic cruise ship Queen Taylor in 1966. The two friends made amends, and they were seen dining together with Burton and Carl. Reynolds divorced Carl after 13 years of marriage, and she was in a bad place financially because of Carl's gambling and poor investment decisions. Taylor and Reynolds were once again close friends. Taylor even offered Reynolds refuge in her hotel in New York City following the terrorist attacks in 2001. The two actors were also seen alongside Shirley MacLaine and Joan Collins in the TV comedy Made for Broads, which Carrie Fisher had written for her mom. In the movie, Taylor and Reynolds' characters share an old flame, a character by the name of Freddie. One day, before the shoot began, Taylor told Reynolds she was sorry for what she did with Fisher. Todd Fisher said Reynolds was taken aback by how emotional Taylor was. In 1981, Eddie Fisher published his autobiography, Fisher, My Life, My Loves, in which he said his marriage with Reynolds was doomed before Taylor came into the picture. He also portrayed her as tight-fisted and calculating. When asked to comment, Reynolds said she hadn't read it. She told People magazine she had no venom about him, and she didn't want to read it because she was trying not to dislike him for the sake of her children. Fisher published another autobiography titled Been There, Done That in 1999. Most of the content was recycled from the earlier autobiography, but it was packaged in an adult version with sexual details. He was also much harsher towards Reynolds this time, calling her self-centered, insecure, and phony. Fisher and Reynolds' daughter Carrie said she was having her DNA fumigated after reading the book. Eddie Fisher married 3 times after separating from Elizabeth Taylor. He has 2 children, Jolie Fisher and Tricia Lee Fisher, with Connie Stevens, who was his 4th wife. Fisher died September 22, 2010, of complications from the hip surgery he underwent after he fell and broke his hip. As for Reynolds and Taylor, they remained the best of friends for the rest of their lives, according to Todd Fisher. Taylor died in 2011, and she left Reynolds beautiful sapphire earrings with a matching necklace and bracelet in her will. Carrie Fisher died December 27, 2016, 4 days after she was rushed to the hospital after she suffered a medical emergency on a transatlantic flight. Debbie Reynolds died a day after her daughter after suffering from a major stroke. Her son Todd said that in her last moments, Reynolds stated she wanted to be with Carrie. Eddie Fisher, Debbie Reynolds, and Elizabeth Taylor were all extremely talented people, but their romantic relationships were set to fail. Eddie's relationships with both Reynolds and Taylor turned out to be failures that even took his career down. Considering Taylor and Reynolds made amends and stayed friends for the rest of their lives, it seems Fisher got the short end of the stick. What was more surprising to you, that Eddie Fisher left Debbie Reynolds for Elizabeth Taylor, or that Elizabeth Taylor and Debbie Reynolds remained friends? Let us know in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos.